name is Lisa Moser, and today I am live again on the corner of Garfield Street and South Green Street. I hope you can hear me okay, because again, I didn't bring the mic. But it's a humid day, overcast, completely overcast today. Temperatures are in the low 70s. It does look like we will get some additional rain. We had rain showers this morning here in Statesville, North Carolina. Everything is wet and green. But I didn't come to the corner to give you your weather forecast, although it's always useful information. Hi, I am on the stoop. You see these bricks right here, this retaining wall? This is part of what was the property of First Baptist Church. Now, First Baptist Church was built in 1867, 2 years after Emancipation Proclamation. The church stood about 6 feet, maybe 10, from this retaining wall, and it was massive. Well, I remember it as massive. As a child, 5 or 6 years old, running around here, I remember looking at First Baptist Church. It was no longer in use in the 1960s. They had already built the new, more modern church a little further to our east here on Garfield Street, but it's still located on Garfield Street. Now, the church, when it was located here on the corner of South Green Street and Garfield Street, it even for many years had named the community Baptist Hill, because it sits literally on a hill. It's downhill from this direction and not quite so uphill in the more south direction. But it was an amazing accomplishment. The founder of this church, I have collected some data on him. He will be part of my next publication, Echoes of Descendants. Now, from what I understand also from my research, the founder had survived some enslavement labor. His parents definitely. He was from here. And it was just an amazing accomplishment for this first generation coming out of enslaved labor, walking into freedom. And this church, when I was a child, it so reminded me of a castle. It was built out of large bricks, and it had some architecture on the corners that kind of reminded me of, steeples or something that was more castle-like. So I do have a photograph of it in my book. Let me share that with you. Oh, it was so amazing to come back to this stoop and reflect on what I remember from the church and how it's not here. I would love, if there are any archaeologists or anthropologists in your contacts, I would love for them to come here and maybe do a soft dig to see if they discover any relics. We've never had anything like that at any of the historical landmarks. Our historical landmarks do have a couple of monuments. In 2022, we did get a proclamation recognizing multiple historical sites here in Statesville's Black Historic District, as well as recognition for the neighborhood having been a freedmen community and with great historical significance. So, oh, and one of the things that has really troubled me, if you follow me on Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok, you know that I have written extensively about how we do not have a preservation plan and how some actions that were not productive, actually counterproductive, occurred not far from here at the largest urban cemetery in Statesville, in Iredell County. We still are without a preservation plan. We are still without a preservation plan. I did take a tour on Sunday, out to the cemetery. And I tell you, the grass was so high, and I still have bites, insect bites, that I'm still, troubled by. But we had a wonderful, wonderful tour on Sunday. So I do want to do that again. The wonderful thing about when we can get a Sunday tour is that we can typically go inside Mount Pleasant Church, which is recognized as a National Historic Landmark. And it really also marks the open door of the Black Historic District. It's literally about 4 blocks from where I'm sitting, maybe 3, depending on how you count city blocks. But this neighborhood was a freedmen community established in 1868 officially with the assistance of the Federal Freedmen Bureau. Now, if you've not heard about the Freedmen Bureau, it's no surprise because it was a government office out of Washington, D.C. It did not last very long, but it did some wonderful, wonderful work working with free Black people to occupy what were going to be protocols, or to implement protocols, so that philanthropists that were assisting Black families, so that new laws that were of help for Black families could set up communities. And this, where I am sitting, is likely, we could call this the heart of the Black Historic District. It's where South Green Street and Garfield Street cross. I like to call it Freedom Square. How you doing? Follow me on Facebook. I'm going live. Freedom Square. And what a wonderful way to bring to you our challenges in bringing about a preservation plan, our challenges with opposition that have delayed progress that really should be the norm by now. We were awarded a proclamation from the city of Statesville in 2022. We actually started a petition and a sit-in and a calling up of city officials in 2021. And so here we are in 2022. We do have some reports that are positive. We have more of a effort that acknowledges, or we have more people or more of the population that acknowledge that this is a historical district, and that the significance of the research has shown this time and time and time again, that this is a very historical neighborhood. If you were with me just a few days ago, I was sharing with you in the rain. That's why I'm under the umbrella, just in case it starts again. I've shared with you one of the most endangered structures. Now, I must say that all of the historical sites are in danger. However, I was able to share with you the structure of the Holiday House and how it is really being tested by climate and climate change, climate extremes, if you will. So right now, as I said, I'm sitting on what was the foundation. Literally, this was an amazing accomplishment. It wasn't the only church in the community going up at that time. You had Mount Pleasant going up, you had the Broad Street Church going up, but this was really in the heart of the community. It also was a structure that was adjacent to Morningside School and adjacent to the urban cemetery, the earliest that we know of burial ground for Black people, both those that survived enslavement and those that have family that survived enslavement. I said I was going to show you a photograph of the church. Let me do that. Let me do that. It's a little loud out here. I hope you can hear me. Can somebody give me a thumbs up? You know, text me or something, let me know that you can hear me okay. Okay, as soon as this truck goes by, I will share this photograph. So First Baptist Church, right here on the corner of Garfield Street and South Green Street. Very close to the curb, because keep in mind at that time people were walking, and that did become an issue later on with the congregation. And they have a very large parking lot at First Baptist Church, not far from here at the new building. So this original building was torn down, I want to say in the early 1970s. It could have been a little bit earlier than that, but I know that coming back home in the 1970s to visit family, I don't remember it being here. So that's why I'm saying I believe it was torn down in the early 1970s. You ready to see it? Oh, it was so amazing. Look at this. Can you see that? Yes, First Baptist Church. That's it. Built in 1867, well, finished in 1868, by people, a congregation, a Baptist congregation where they had survived enslavement and now had a free church. Okay? Is that not amazing or what? You know it is, right? And I never got to go inside the church. When I was a small child, it was no longer in use, and I only saw it from the outside. I am searching for photographs that might be possible of the inside. But I mean, think about it. We are talking about free black people, many of whom had survived enslavement, now have family going to this wonderful, prestigious First Baptist Church. I showed you the photograph, okay? No small structure, right? It was beautiful, a brick, mostly brick building. And of course, in the late 1800s, photography was very prevalent, but not so much for documenting and record keeping, and that's unfortunate. But I am looking, and if you know anyone, you think you know someone that has some photographs of inside First Baptist Church, oh please, I will walk. I will walk to meet you to see those. Oh, I would love to have some information, more information about First Baptist Church. I do have an opportunity to attend church and look at some of the record files to see what they're able to come up with. We do have some early photographs of people and of the pastors and some of the congregation, but getting a photograph of the inside of the church, I have not had that privy yet. I've not had that opportunity yet. So if you know of someone, please do share what it is that it means to have more books about our history, our local history. As you know, on a national level, it has not been easy to save national history on black culture, black heritage, and certainly you know that we face challenges on the local level. One of the reasons, and I'm speculating here, please don't sue me, but I'm speculating that one of the reasons is so challenging right now because the technology is with us, but there's a thing called control. And when you see control of resources, that's some power. That is some power. So it's going to mean some sort of compromise, I imagine. I talked a little bit about this before Memorial Day because I speculated. I said, well, you know, and this again is my opinion, and when I tell you my opinion, I let you know it's my opinion, and I don't try to bring out facts and say they're facts if they're not facts. So I'm sharing with you my thought process and what my opinion is, because clearly we've already proven that the Morningside School, the high school, is a part of the legacy of Morningside, the original school being the first public school, and then even before that we had a Freedman School. So the historical significance of black people being able to read and write for a generation or two started in this community with that Morningside legacy. And so part of our historical significance is that laws were in place that prevented us to learn. We actually had to have classes in secret. We had, you know, learning going on during the enslavement years, but it was in secret. It was against the law. You could be, Connie, how you doing? Follow me on Facebook. It's a great corner for me seeing my neighbors, but maybe not so much to be on Facebook. So as I was saying, so this legacy, this cultural significance is a history that's not frequently shared when we go to museums, when we go to lectures. I mean, you can find it and you can look for it, but it's not folded in. And one of the reasons it's not folded in is because we don't have all of the history written down. So to give you an example, I have a couple of documents that show that a couple of the pastors, including the pastor that founded First Baptist Church, including the pastor that was a founder or leading pastor at Mount Pleasant Church early. Both were teachers at the Freedman School. However, I've not been able to pinpoint where in the community that Freedman School began. Now, of course, from my reading, from my research, I'm making an educated guess at times on different things. So my best speculation is that the Freedman School was also nearby this area. I'm not going to go into everything that makes me think that. If you'd like to have a conversation with me, if you'd like to discuss it, I'll be glad to do that. The important thing right now is that we do have documentation saying that there was a Freedman School here established in 1868. We know that from the Freedman Bureau archives that are still in Washington. How much longer they will be in Washington, hey, But this makes it all more important that we save local black history. So we know that the Negro School was here. We know that the Negro School had a fire, and many of the documentation, much of the documentation, many of the records in that Freedman School were destroyed. And then the next school after the Negro School that was destroyed after the fire, that's when we got Morningside named. The Negro School was named Morningside. So we have a good history of Morningside. We have some history of the Negro School that was prior to Morningside, but we have very little. I have found very, very little on the Freedman School. The exception to that, is documentation that shares that two upstanding or outstanding, however you want to say it, pastors of two churches, major churches here in this community, taught at the school, at the Freedman School. So, this is piecing together documentation that is ongoing, because you never know who might have a letter, who might have a Bible, who might have some additional information. So I don't consider that a closed book. I continue to look, I continue to ask questions, I continue to search. But certainly the legacy of a people, not just one individual, not even the most accomplished or the lesser, the average Joe like myself. The fact that we have an early history that began right with the settlers, it may not have been, the kind of glory that we would love to have in our history, but the fact that we are still here and that we can say that we are the descendants of survivors, and this is our city too, this is our history, that's amazing. And so since we're in a city that celebrates history, let's celebrate an inclusive history. So it's not about only black culture, it's about the culture that is a part of the city as a whole. And I've invited anybody, you and your grandmother can come and do the tour. And I had a couple of people to come and do the tour on Sunday. They asked amazing questions, and they were really very interested in the history here and how it is that this black neighborhood, it was segregated, but it was also economically inclusive. And by that, economically inclusive, I mean you had professionals, you had merchants, you had black shop owners, you had a little bit of everybody, as well as labor by the hour. And we lived together in a black community. This community is within walking distance of downtown. It makes it really ideal to be an investment. But as I was saying, my speculation is that because this is a city that brings in so many resources for its historical significance, and we've not had a black historical district with resources on the books, getting this one on the books is going to mean who's going to be in control of it. That really is a big question. And so when I, speak on that, I use Morningside as an example, because there's no ethical claim that Morningside does not belong to this community. You just can't establish it separate from the history of this community. And there are policies on the state level as well as the national level for federal policy on how historical properties are to be treated, how historical lands are to be treated. And so, you know, many emails, and if you know anyone that's on my email list, they can tell you how I have gone through policy after policy to show that Morningside properties belong to this community. But how will Morningside become a museum, become a business complex? Now that is where the opposition is not going to always be in agreement with what is most doable, or most ideal, I guess I should say. Why? Well, it's such an amazing Black history, and bringing about a museum that would be in the control of Black history. Now, if you familiar with my hometown, you know that ideally for others would not be for a Black person, a Black professional man or woman, to be the Morningside director. Who would be the Morningside director? I should do a survey. Given that Morningside should be a museum, who would be the most ideal African-American professional to be in charge of the Morningside Museum Complex? That's got a nice ring to it, doesn't it? Well, let me tell you, who do you think would apply? Who do you think would apply? And who would decide? Would it be the Historical Preservation Commission to decide? Would it be for City Council to decide? Would it be for the new task force, the African American Historic Commission, to decide? So if we were to see a position go to a Black African American director of the Morningside Museum Business Complex, you know, I'm just throwing a name out there because it has to be named something, right? It has to be named something pertinent. So let's say, for instance, that it's named Morningside Cultural Museum Business Complex. So the director of Morningside would have to oversee a multi-million-dollar budget, would have to oversee contributions, would have to oversee programs that would not only enrich this community, because a community that is promoting Black culture would not just be for this community, it would be for the city, it would be for all of Iredell County, because the significance of this neighborhood is that the professionals, the merchants, the history was a service not just to the Blacks in this neighborhood, no, it was a service to Black communities all across Iredell County. And someone, you know, had a few questions about that. And you know what, I can just use one example, but there are many. I use the example, Mrs. Carlton Holiday. Her house her former residence, an endangered historical site, a building that's still standing that doesn't have a preservation plan. She came to Statesville as a young woman from Virginia, and she serviced the lower grade schools all across Iredell County. There are news reports where she walked to schools, rode the buggy to schools to check on and to supervise education for Black people. She came here in 1913, and she did that job for 40-some years. That's servicing all of Iredell County. Now, a lot of people will say, well, you had more than Morningside. You had Unity. Unity is a wonderful Negro history of education. I agree. It's become a community center. But please, there's a huge difference in the histories. And there's a huge difference between a museum and a community center. People from all over will come to a museum if it has the history there. People from all over don't typically make a point to come to community centers. I mean, when you travel, yes, you can go to a community center. That's not my point. My point is that a museum is a research protocol, standardized facility that has a draw for education, has a draw for culture and business incentives. And people from all over have that interest. So it would be a director position that would be in charge of multi-millions of dollars of resources, ongoing. It would not just benefit the here and now, but we're talking about generation after generation after generation. And that is really the purpose of building an economic base on history, on culture. And that's what the city of Statesville does. That's what it does. So having this historical district invested in really is what should be a norm. How you doing today? Follow me on Facebook. So it is, wait for this car to pass so you can hear me. Let me recap. I'm probably going to lose my train of thought, but you know, it really is about building an economic base, and that was one of the reasons I questioned why was an application put together for the historical district to be recognized as a community, as a district community, but no money attached to it, no preservation plan attached to it, when we had already for 3 years, maybe more, advocated to have the 7 most significant historical sites listed at state and national level, because with that we could solicit state and national and federal funding. And so when you get funding in to build up some landmarks, then you can focus on, well, how do we build up properties in the community? And to me, it was more of a distraction. It was more of a way to split the community. It was more of a way to delay any progress. It was more of a way to say that, well, we can't do anything because everybody doesn't agree. But you know, when they built Fort Dobbs, they didn't have a vote. They didn't go out and take a whole bunch of surveys to see who agrees. The leaders of the community decided that the historical significance of Fort Dobbs and that location was worth the investment, and they went out and they did it. The same thing with downtown. They didn't go out and have a big survey and invite people to vote on whether or not it was a good idea. The leadership decided, we're going to lead and we're going to make this work, and this is what we have. Investment ongoing. In just the last 3 or 4 years, you can look at the records of public funding, preservation funding that goes into 6 other historical districts. They're not black historic districts. Well sustained, using public funding, on and on and on. It's established. It's sustainable. They make it work. So to me, as a black woman, yes, you know, from this community, family from this community on both sides, my mother's side, my father's side of the family, to see these delays, unnecessary delays, how much does it take to convince people to be ethical, to do the right thing, to be moral? And we've got quite a few examples that are recently to show how we've been looking at discrimination. And you know, I'm not going to go into a whole lot about what happened at the cemetery, but if you read some of my past articles, you can Google me, Lisa Moser, Google Statesville Historic District, Green Street Cemetery. I've written about it, and it's not right. But how do you correct the matter? Well, here's what I want you to do today. Here's the reason I'm here for this today. We were led to believe that there were 6 applications that could go to state or national. So all you got to do to help push this forward, to bring more resources to a black community so that we can help other communities, is you call city officials, you call the authority, and you say who you are, and you tell them that you support an application recognizing the state or national significance of the Holiday House. You call your city official, your county officials, and you tell them who you are, and you tell them that you support the application to designate the Green Street Cemetery to be recognized as a historical landmark at the state or national level. We can do either one. The national level, that's fine, because Mount Pleasant is already recognized at the national level. It's on the National Historic Registry. Call them and tell them that you want the property where the monument, where the original Morningside School monument is sitting down, that you want that property and that application submitted so that we can have that monument recognized as a state or national historic landmark. Call your official. Call who you know in office. Tell them that you want that location on the corner of Dockery Street and South Green Street where the Billingsley Academy once stood, the Negro Academy, started out very much the way Livingstone College started out. Call and tell them that you want that Negro Academy landmark recognized nationally and on the National Historic Registry. Call them and tell them where the high school, a segregated school, last class graduating in 1968, never a high school that was integrated. You want that location that sits directly across from the Green Street Cemetery, designated at the National Historic Registry. If we do this, and we've been asking city officials and authorities to do this for over 3 years now, what's it going to take to get it done? They don't even seem to know where the applications are after admitting who was over the applications downtown at City Hall. They told us they had somebody over in charge of the applications. We've not seen not even one application for one landmark. Why is that? Why do you think that it is? So why is that important? Let me tell you why it's important. Can you imagine, not the community with a historic district registry, but can you imagine just the site where Dr. Holliday's house is, just the cemetery site, and just the Morningside Monument site? If we had those 3 sites already on the Historical District Registry, don't you think grant money would be coming into the community already? Now imagine if we also had Morningside Museum, the site where the Billingsley Academy is. Hi, you guys. Hi. The site where the Billingsley Academy is also on the National Historic Registry. Imagine that the 7 historical sites on the National Registry, with Mount Pleasant leading the way, how we would be able to come together as a community and bring in ongoing resources and initiate business initiatives, okay? Property restoration initiatives, okay? Youth programs, all right? Senior citizen programs, transportation programs. All of that can be under the umbrella of a preservation plan. So you kind of get the idea why it hasn't been done yet. You kind of get that idea. Because a lot of people want to sit and say, oh, well, you know, if Lisa Moser didn't talk about this, we might be able to get this done or that done. If Lisa Moser wasn't saying this about that. I don't talk about anybody. You've been sitting here. Hopefully, I've been sitting here. Hopefully you've been listening to me for the last 20 minutes. Have I mentioned anybody's name other than the historical figures, Dr. Holliday, Mrs. Holliday, Reverend Wentz, the founder of First Baptist Church? Have I mentioned any individual? Because I'm not here to drag anybody. I'm here to make sure that proper protocol and procedures have a standard so that we don't have to continue to accept substandard. And that's what we're getting. We're getting substandard or overlooked altogether, because the historical preservation in this city of Statesville that looks after 6 other historical districts have the ability to solicit and take inventory of resources and divvy those resources out repeatedly, ongoingly, but yet have not done so for the Black Historic District. Now tell me I'm wrong. Yes, in the recent years, since we've been advocating for this, since we've been petitioning for this, since we've been raising our expectations for this, we've gotten a few, and I do mean a few grants. I think one grant did the research recently to come around and tell us about the properties here that were period homes. But you know what? We already knew a lot about the period homes, but I did learn something listening from that. But that presentation and that consultant came in, didn't have the same background or culture that we have, African American, and came with no proposal for money. Didn't have a goal for raising any funding. So anybody that's talking about doing anything to elevate the significance of history in a Black historic district, the first thing out of their mouth should be how much money we're going to raise, what the goal is, what contributions are most doable, because the Preservation Historic Society, the Preservation Historic Commission, they have goals. They meet monthly. They know what kind of money they want to bring in month to month. They oversee these resources that come into the city, and they are in constant communication with the city council members. So it's not about resources not being available. It's about resources not being open to elevating a Black historic district. I said it, I meant it, and I can prove it. Okay, I guess I do get a little upset. People say they don't like my tone. I just don't like what's happening. I just don't like what's happening. Like I said, I'm sitting on the retaining wall right here where First Baptist Church sat, a church that was built by those that had survived enslavement. Not only do you see no reference, no historical landmark, you don't have any programs that teach about the history to our youth, about the history of here. And, you know, you can go to Winston-Salem. You go to Winston-Salem, Reverend Wentz, who took 6 years to raise money to build the Billingsley Academy. He has a church that's a memorial to him, recognizing his accomplishments here in Statesville. And there's nothing here in Statesville giving honor to a freedom leader. Reverend Wentz. I'll show you a picture of this. I'll show you a photo of Reverend Wentz. Oh, first let me show you a photo of the building. This is the Billingsley Academy. You see that? The Billingsley Academy. It was built, it opened its doors in 1905. This was quite an accomplishment. Now, Reverend Wentz, both his parents had survived enslavement. And he was an early graduate of Biddle's College. Biddle College became Johnson C. Smith in Charlotte. And he studied theology there. There is some amazing accomplishments of this man, and I only have a few of them listed in this book about him. But he built this academy, right? I can literally see the open field where it once stood. And when I was a young child, the Broad Street Church, you know, members that were part of the Broad Street congregation, I should say, attended church there. I attended church there as a child. And it was an amazing building. I remember the very large windows. It always looked like a school to me. It was an academy. You could learn a trade. You could learn a trade. You could, you know, learn academics that you might learn in a private school, but you also learned services. So it started out very much the same way that Livingstone College started out. So having a park, some sort of you know, statue park or a water fountain park, or something that would be an outdoor space for a community space that also gave recognition to a great leader, a leader in freedom, the Billingsley Academy. And so, you know, recognizing Billingsley as well. A lot of people don't know who Billingsley was. Reverend Billingsley was a white man that for many years was the pastor of the Negro Church. Yes, that's true. That's how it went at that time. We're talking about late 1800s. And Reverend Wentz appreciated the work that this white man, Billingsley, did to help black people. And so he named the Negro Academy after Pastor Billingsley. There's a lot of history here, a lot of history. And so when I say that this is a community that is an investment, it's not just for this neighborhood. It's for all of Iredell County. It's for all of North Carolina. We have this opportunity sitting in our lap. And it seems like the more we push to make sure that people are aware, the more the resistance or the opposition, I guess I should say, find excuses. You know, what else could there be except excuses for delay, delay, delay? delay. It's excuses, because I call it an excuse because it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense that we don't already have the application submitted for national registries. I couldn't do it. I'm an individual. You can't just write, oh, I'm going to write a letter and they're going to make this a national landmark. Now, a church can do it. That's how Mount Pleasant was able to do it, because it's a nonprofit and it has, you know, letterhead. But the city could do it, you know, or some other nonprofit could do it. So, you know, it's just, it's overdue. And with the way things are going, it's even more important that we save local history. It's important that you save the genealogy of your family. And that's what my second book is about, because it was actually me working on the history of my family, my family's history here, that I started to connect to all of the different sites that are historical and all of the different people in the community that are historical. And so when you do that, you don't have to be from Statesville. You've got a history in your community, in your family's community. And so many of these communities have been, you know, bulldozed down, torn apart, redlined, property just slowly, you know, sucked away from the people that were there after Emancipation Proclamation. A lot of the property here, once all owned by black people, is no more. And a lot of that is due to redlining. If you can't get, if your community is redlined and you can't get a mortgage to finance to do repairs to the home falls into disrepair. You get coded out of the market. You lose your property. It's up on the auction block. Now, I know I have said that in a very simple manner, but it's very true. If you look on record, there's an article, I don't remember what newspaper. It was a North Carolina newspaper, and they talked about some of the highest cities with foreclosures. And we're not a major city in North Carolina, so how did Statesville get up on top of the list with other cities for being a major city of foreclosure? Tell me that. Well, you know, I have given my opinion on some things and I have given facts about some things, but I'm going to give you my opinion on this. And my opinion is that we've always had a large black population here, no doubt about it. You've got more than one historical black neighborhood. I never said that there weren't other black historical neighborhoods. All I said was, is this one serviced all of Iredell County, and that's what makes it an ideal resource for all of Iredell County. You have Rankintown, Rabbittown, Poplar Branch. Those were all black communities servicing black communities, especially the local community. People in Rabbittown helped out the folks in Rabbittown, Rankintown, Poplar Branch, etc. But this Garfield Green Street is, as a historical black community, it was a freedman community, and this is where the Negro Hospital was. Where I am sitting right here on this foundation of First Baptist Church, the First Baptist Church, is diagonally right across the street from the Negro Hospital. Hi. Right across the street from the Negro Hospital. It's no longer there. Follow me on Facebook. I think I'll have to be more careful about where I decide to go live at. This is a busy intersection. It's a little more busier than what I thought. I mean, it's not that busy, but it's a little busier than what I thought. Right across the street was the Negro Hospital, operated by another historical figure by the name of Nurse Daisy Robinson. Nurse Daisy Robinson, a nurse, and for many years her burial plot was said to be lost or unmarked. It's over in the Green Street Cemetery, and you should see how it was handled. Oh, you don't want me to start crying. You should see how it was mishandled is what I should say. How they added in a layer of dirt and started covering over relics, and no anthropologists out there. Oh my goodness, yes it will. It will make me very sad. But directly across the street from where I'm sitting was the Negro Hospital, and it's where many of us were able to get medical services. Now, I don't have to tell you why, because it was during the time of the segregated years, decades of segregated years. And so having this neighborhood is a part of history. But if you don't want to see it as a resource, don't call anybody. If you don't want to see an investment that we can pass on for generation after generation, keep letting them delay. If you do not want to see Statesville's history, and I believe somebody done call the police on me. Did they call the police on me? Let's see what happens. Well, they're looking at me. But I guess I didn't break any laws yet. We'll see if they come back. So I'm on the corner, but I'm a good 6 feet away from the curb. And I'm on approaching traffic side. We'll see. If I have to move, I have to move. You know, I believe in law and order, and so if they say I've got to move, I will come and move. So anyway, as I was saying, this is a community that people from all over, black people from all over Iredell County came and attended school at the Billingsley Academy. Unity High School came along in the 1940s. So up until then, people came from all over to go to high school, to go to the all-grade school at Morningside. People from all over buried their family at the Green Street Cemetery, especially those of us that have family that survived enslavement. They're buried right there at the Green Street Cemetery. Especially if you needed medical service, you came to the Negro Hospital, or you came to Dr. Holliday's house. Mrs. Holliday, as I said, she was the supervisor over all of the lower grade schools in all of Iredell County. So this history, and I want to add that people attending the private academy, they also attended from outside Iredell County. There is record, there is documentation where it shows that black students that were not from Iredell County also came to attend the Billingsley Academy. Let me see, what am I missing? The railroad bridge is a historical landmark. That's currently, I believe that's owned by Norfolk Southern Railroad. We'd love to see some repairs to that bridge. And I mentioned the Broad Street Church, Billingsley, the Holiday House, the Morningside School, the Green Street Cemetery, First Baptist Church original position, Dr. Holliday's house in the Negro Hospital. What am I missing? I think I'm missing something. Teachers Row. I didn't talk about Teachers Row. Do you know about Teachers Row? There are a number of period homes on Teachers Row. As soon as the cars go by, I will talk to them, because I'm not certain if I'm being heard, because it is a little loud out, and I'm depending on the phone mic. But I think I will definitely make a point to bring my microphone the next time I go live. So anyway, I share all of this in my book. Yes, an advocate has to make a dime or two. I share all of this history in my first book, Weathering Preservation. So if I missed anything, all of the landmarks, the history, all in here. There's some about my family being connected, my being here in this community as a child. That's in here too. Now my second book has a lot of me in it as well. It's called Preservation Climate. And I share a lot of the challenges in a more chronological order of the opposition that we face in this book. But what is most important about this book is what I learned about policy, what I learned about regulations for historical preservation at the state level, what I learned about the resources that are available. And then I also put in here, I think it's the last chapter, I put in this book how to get some of the documentation if you're doing your family history, if you're doing genealogy, what office to go to, because this was something that I learned on a personal level when I was trying to get documentation for a couple of my family members, and I'm like, why I can't get a birth certificate or a death certificate for this family member? And it all boiled down to there was a courthouse fire. So this courthouse fire, it really made me suspicious. And then I started looking at all across the South how many places had courthouse fires that burned up the documentation. And then, of course, you know, people were saying, "Oh, Lisa, you're being a conspiracy theorist." And I'm like, okay, well, maybe so. I'm not that deep of a researcher. I've written a couple of paperback books, and I'm interested in advocating to bring about a historical, a historical district, a community that means a lot to me, and I hope to you as well. But it doesn't make me an expert on all things lineage, all things heritage for Black people here. But certainly, I wrote about, some of the difficulties that you will face in doing your genealogy, how you might be able to get around some of the lost data. Where do you go? Who do you ask for this data, this information? There is such a thing as a public information form, and that means that if it's public data, you have the right to have a copy or have access to it. Sometimes a copy can be given to you free. Sometimes they'll ask you to provide an email address or provide an envelope, a stamped envelope, different things like that. But let me tell you that I'm still waiting on some data. Locally here, I'm still waiting on some data. So it's a challenge, and I consider delay opposition. I consider delay discrimination. I consider a lack of effort on some people's parts discriminatory as well. I said it. You can say I said it. My name is Lisa Moser, and I'm from Statesville, North Carolina. This is my hometown. This is the hometown of my parents. This is the hometown of most of my great-grandparents. And I have great-great-grandparents that survived enslavement that are buried in unmarked graves at the Green Street Cemetery. So please, when I tell you that this is something that's very dear to my heart, I hope you can have empathy for me. I hope that you will take an interest in whatever way that you can do to help this advocacy. It might be to call up the officials. That's certainly something that I have asked for you to do. It might be something as simple as purchasing my book. Now, a lot of people saying, well, you're trying to make some money. Let me tell you, breathing air is not free. And, I do breathe in and out. So it takes that for me to learn, for me to teach myself, for me to go to conferences, for me to be able to move about. So this is how I have asked people to support me. I also do a tour, and I'm going to have a tour put together. I haven't made up my mind yet. It's either going to be on Friday or it's going to be Saturday. I'm not sure, but we do have a van. Really is ideal, and I had a group of 4, and that included the van driver and myself. But boy, were those 2 participants just some wonderful, wonderful people to meet. I would not have met them had they not taken the tour. They asked some really wonderful questions. And, I don't know everything. And so sometimes if I don't know the answer to a question, just them asking the question is very helpful. And so a lot of times I don't know the answer. You know what? I'm going to go and I'm going to go look up the answer. Hello. How you doing? Oh, it's so good to see you. You know where I'm sitting, right?
Where you sitting?
This is part of the retaining wall that was First Baptist Church.
Okay.
And so I've been talking about the history pastor.
Okay.
This is my pastor.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Are you walking today?
We have Bible study at, noonday prayer at 12.
At 12 o'clock? Yeah. Okay, so at Calvary Presbyterian Church, it is Bible study day at 12 o'clock.
Yeah.
Are y'all cooking?
They feeding afterwards, yeah.
Oh, you know I'm coming, right?
Yeah. Well, you continue to do what you do. I just want to support you, let you know we love you.
I appreciate
and praying
you,
for you.
Pastor.
We'll put it in prayer.
Please, I'm going to see my mom later today.
Okay.
Thank you so much for your visit.
That's for yours.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Bless you.
Hey, here, take this one. I know this story.
Yeah.
This is my new one.
Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, excellent.
Okay.
We'll advertise.
Good, thank you, Pastor.
No, thank
and
you.
he just gave me the book, The Prayer of Jezebel. I really appreciate this. Thank you so much.
I want you to know you're not by yourself.
Thank you.
Yeah.
He had a strong faith.
Yeah.
Strong so much. Thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Love you.
I need to be walking too. I love you too. So, I'm coming. Thank you. So, of course, my pastor, and I try not to mention names, but I have to say, Pastor Bass has been with this community, held this community together for so many of us. And I so appreciate him because when I'm not here, I know I can call on him to check on my mom. My mom is 92 years old, and, you know, she's comfortable, but she does not get around. And so it's always nice to have a pastor that does old-fashioned type service in the community, and he certainly does. He has been a leader in this community for many decades now. And of course, it sits right next to the historical site of the Billingsley Academy. Oh, I'm gonna cry. So in my second book, you'll learn all about, oh, I thought that bird was coming right at me. that advocacy, just by starting, if you haven't started your genealogy, you know, learning the history of your family. And this is something that you can hand down. You know, even if you don't have a piece of property or a piece of jewelry or anything that you want to hand down to your children, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren, hand them down the history of your family, because it is a mighty, mighty history. And the more you do that, the more you will find out about the community that you are from. And that's how it started for me. I did not start out to be a genealogist. I still kind of hesitate to even call myself a genealogist, but that really is the work of genealogy, and that is to look at who you are as a great-great-granddaughter, who you are as a mother, who you are as a distant cousin. That genealogy and that history for black people here, to have survived enslavement, to have had great-great-grandparents that survived enslavement. That's a wonderful feat. Not everybody is here and can say that. So please don't take it lightly. And you know, the thing about this book is you can actually write in it. I put questions in here for you. Let me see if I can find the chapter really quick. But I gave you, see right in here, I gave you some of the pages and questions that you can ask yourself and ask family members to get you started. And then I also go into where and which offices to look for this information, who to ask, what to ask for. Don't take no for an answer. Double back, follow up. You have to be persistent, okay? I'm telling you, it's not easy, but I learned so much. And you know, churches also have records and documents, especially if it's a church that does go back for a long, long way. So please, you know, make sure that you go to where your family is from, find out what churches were most likely where they attended, and you may even find some photographs. That's such a rarity, but you might even find some very old photographs. I'm going to tell you about one other thing. Then I've got to go and get myself some lunch. But this Sunday, after I go to church, this Sunday, I'm going to go to Freedom, Presbyterian Freedom Church. And that's on the northeast side of Statesville. And it has some wonderful family information for me there as well. I'll be taking some photographs of some non-traditional headstones. And this is going to be part of my next book. So I've got a request for you, well, a request for you. If you are familiar with some of your family before 1865, before Emancipation Proclamation, it doesn't mean that there weren't blacks that were free before that time, because there are record of many blacks that were able to purchase their family and live even during enslavement years as free men and women. They didn't have citizenship, because citizenship for black people didn't come until the 14th Amendment. And I'm going to talk a lot about the 14th Amendment in my next Facebook Live, probably tomorrow, or I might wait till Sunday, I'm not sure. But if you have an interest in sharing that information with me, I would love for it to be part of my next book. I already have the name for my next book. My next book, the name is going to be Echoes of Descendants. People are waving at me, and I'm not sure if I know him or not, and I'm still surprised that my pastor made it up this hill. He's in shape, isn't he? I need to be walking up that hill. And I appreciate it. Not everybody wants to be on Facebook, and so I try not to mention names. I try not to, name drop, but I really appreciate that, Pastor. If you hear me, thank you. Thank you very much. I know I have bugged my church because they helped me with the petition for Morningside. They helped me, make sure I knew which way to go. They prayed for me, and it was just a show of support. And we're not a large church. We're a small community church. And so when you've got 3 or 4 people behind you, you can move a mountain. And so I really appreciate that. Now, I didn't say we moved the mountain where we wanted to move it, but we moved it some. We moved it over maybe an inch or 2. So thank you. Thank you very much, everybody, for listening, for following me on Facebook, for sharing my content. I greatly appreciate that. You can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. My books are available anytime you see me. I've got my books with me. The tour, I'm going to do my next tour. If you're interested in a tour, you have a group, let me know. I'll be glad to be your tour guide. If you're an individual and like to do the tour, I do have access to a van, and I take you to each one of the sites as the tour guide. And I don't charge anything for the tour, but I do ask you at the end of the tour, if you like to, please make a contribution to me. Please purchase, one of my books. And I would love to do a tour, provided the weather is good, Saturday. I haven't decided what time yet, so if you're interested in that, let me know. I'm kind of leaning towards like a 12 o'clock. I don't know if that's too early or too late for some people, but I'm leaning towards maybe a history tour at 11 o'clock, or excuse me, 12 o'clock on Saturday. So we'll see. I'll, check my direct messages and see what people are saying about a 12 o'clock tour on Saturday. So my name is Dr. Lisa Moser. I am a descendant here in Statesville, North Carolina. If you're not from Statesville, we are right at the intersection of 77 and I-40. You can take exit 48, come down Salisbury Road, and take a left right here on Garfield Street, and you'll be in the Black Historic District of Statesville, North Carolina, established as a freedmen community in 1868. We're so proud of our history. We want to get this done. We want to make sure that our landmarks have resources so that we can make sure we establish an economic base to pass on generation after generation. Please help save Black history. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to go to lunch. I'm going to go to prayer. And then lunch, right? Thank you.